What up, guys? Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Sunday, December 16th. We've got some political news. We got some big pharma news. We've got some space news to talk about. But two things before we get started. Number one, shout out to a sponsor of this channel, Rugged Reserves. They have their Patriot flashlight on sale for the holidays. Solar-powered flashlight, so you never need batteries. And not only that, but they have a USB charger on it, so you can charge your phone with no outlet, with solar power, and it's got a lot of other neat functions as well. So take a look at Rugged Reserves Patriot Flashlight. There'll be a link in the description down below for it. And number two, bear with me, one more thing. My website is live, jordansather.com, live this morning. Go take a look at it. So beautiful, so simple. You can sign up for my newsletter there. I've got a blog I'll be working on, got some products that I'll be putting up on that. So there you go, jordansather.com. Make sure you subscribe to that newsletter too, because if they censor me anywhere, that's one thing they can't censor, and I'll be putting out a lot of announcements and a lot of releases through that newsletter as well coming up. All right, now let's get into the meat of the matter here, what you're here for. First of all, take a look at this. Somebody was noticing video during George H.W. Bush's funeral, and as you can see here, the Obamas get themselves an envelope as well. So we can add them to the list of figures at that funeral that had a little envelope slip out of their proceedings. You know, we had Joe Biden get one. We had Hillary Clinton get one. We had the Bushes get showed something that didn't make them happy. I know you saw the look on Jeb Bush's face. And now we can add the Obamas to that list. And look at Barack Obama's face. Look at that scowl. He was not happy at whatever he saw. And if you follow Q, you know, as Q said a few days ago, that was the counter. Whatever these envelopes were was the counter to the deep state trying to delay the Clinton whistleblower testimony that was supposed to happen on December 5th, but we had George H.W. Bush's funeral happen instead. So whatever was in the envelopes was the counter, and they're not happy. So I'm curious. I'm really curious as to what was actually in those envelopes. And moving on into some more political stuffs. Check it out here. Department of Justice Inspector General, that's Horowitz, discovers 19,000 missing Sturzak page text messages. You ain't getting nothing by the NSA, let me tell you that. So we got a lot of new text messages coming to the surface that they tried to hide. We got some other text messages too that are still hidden, but the news of them being hidden is coming up to the surface. Mueller team scrubbed Peter Sturzak's text before giving phone to Inspector General. So we have some text coming to the surface, being released, some text not. Now, this is very interesting because Mueller's office scrubbed them purposefully before handing them over. So it's pretty much as if this whole Russia investigation is just imploding, purposeful implosion, in my opinion, but it's very good news that that's likely going to be over very soon. And moving on, tweet from Praying Medic here, letter from Chuck Grassley, Trust Grassley, to Defense Secretary Mattis and General Stewart of the DIA, requesting declassification of a document relating to General Flynn's case. So, as I reported in one of my recent videos, there's been a lot of news coming up about Flynn's case lately. His lawyers basically saying that the FBI told him not to bring anybody to that meeting of his where he was basically set up. So now that the news of this came out, and also news, John Solomon reporting on Hannity the other day that the DIA has documents that will exonerate Flynn. Looks like Chuck Grassley here is trying to get those documents declassified out to the public, sends a letter to James Mattis, Secretary of Defense, and the head of the DIA to get those documents out. I would imagine that Flynn is going to be cleared very, very soon, and that's very, very good news. Now let's talk about those yellow vests. Yellow vest protests. I'm absolutely in love with what's going on with these yellow vests, not just in Europe, but as you can see here, worldwide. So these yellow vest protests are now hitting Israel. So yellow vest protests going on everywhere. I'm even seeing some people in North America here, Canada and the United States, trying to get their hands on some yellow vests. This is really going to be a worldwide symbol of revolt, revolution, rebellion. The yellow vest is going to become that. And because these yellow vest protests are not just in Europe anymore, but really going worldwide. People standing up to the corruption in every single country, even Israel here. That must be why Egypt is restricting yellow vest sales to avoid copycat protests. So countries are literally restricting the purchase of yellow vests. Something as benign as yellow vests. I hope you're not a construction worker. You're going to have a tough time getting your hands on a yellow vest these days. But Egypt restricting sales to avoid protests. Wow. Governments must be scared. They must be scared. So now let's move on into some big pharma news. First of all, federal judge in Texas striking down the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. Huge news here. Very good news. Step-by-step process of undoing this ridiculousness of the health insurance and pharmaceutical industrial complex industry. A lot of names we could call it. Big pharma, basically. So Obamacare, the fact that we were all mandated to sign up for health insurance for this bullshit healthcare system. It's good news that we don't have to get mandated to sign up for it anymore. But baby steps, like I said, we still have a lot to undo in terms of this. It's not a healthcare system, it's a sick care system. It's a symptom management system, right? They're not trying to make us healthy. They're trying to just get us perpetually on their drugs to sell us and keep us sick and disempowered and unhealthy. So anyway, baby steps here. Good news, getting Obamacare undone. And more news coming out by way of Big Pharma in regards to Johnson & Johnson. Their shares are plunging, tanking after a report that says it knew about asbestos in its products, and these products were baby products, baby powder. J&J knew for decades about asbestos being in its baby powder. Are you buying organic yet? I sure as hell hope you are choosing organic products. And not just organic products, but organic products from local family-owned small business brands. You can still buy organic products that are owned by large corporations like Johnson & Johnson, but really those don't mean necessarily anything. Not quite as much as buying organic, local, non-GMO products from small businesses. So truly, vote with your dollars, guys. Vote with your dollars. Vote with your choices. If we want these deep state corporations, media, medical, et cetera, corporations to lose their power, we need to stop investing our time, our energy, and our money in them. So start doing that. And more news coming out by way of Big Pharma here. And really, this is big tech at the hands of Big Pharma doing some censorship here. But we have Pinterest censoring the accounts of Aaron Elizabeth. Aaron Elizabeth is the partner of Dr. Mercola. Dr. Mercola also had his Pinterest account deleted a few months ago, but Aaron Elizabeth had her account deleted a couple of days ago. And not just her, but the National Vaccine Information Center, the NVIC, that alternative health media outlet also had their Pinterest account censored because of vaccines. They had vaccine photographs, vaccine memes, information on their Pinterest accounts. So Pinterest literally deleted them because the linked websites, quote, violated their misinformation policy because it was promoting, quote, false cures for terminal or chronic illnesses and, quote, anti-vaccination advice. Misinformation policy. So add Pinterest to the list of corporations to boycott. Luckily, I've never even had a Pinterest account. Never going to have one. And this gives you more reason not to have one. So there's that. Now moving on into space stuff. So we covered politics, we covered health. Now we're rolling quick with this one. Let's go into space. So will the Space Force sit under the Department of the Air Force? The Pentagon finally has an answer. So the Space Force, which the Trump administration has been pushing to get implemented for months now, of course, Donald Trump mentions it at pretty much any rally he does to a big round of applause. Space Force. I love it. But because the Democrats are in control of the House and there's a lot of stifling going on within different elements of the military and the political bureaucracies that exist, the Space Force is having a tough time coming to fruition. So this is why the Space Force might have to sit as an entity under the Air Force, much like the Marines are an entity under the Navy. The Space Force might have to still be under the branch of the Air Force. We don't quite know. This article says the Pentagon has an answer, but that answer hasn't been made public yet. Okay? Now, Trump is being briefed, and he's offering his advice, and the Pentagon's number 2 leader, Deputy Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan, has been essentially briefing a lot of people on it. They've been doing a lot of work to find out what's going to happen with the Space Force. But we have yet to publicly know. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with the Space Force. I personally want it completely its own separate entity. I think that would be much more helpful for us and for disclosure in general. But of course, that might be difficult. Now, the Democrats have control of the House, but one thing I'm not seeing in these articles talking about the Space Force is the Republican control of the Senate. So that might be purposefully unreported as of now because the information war is going on, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm curious to see how the Senate is going to hold or play a part in the creation of the Space Force, or what's going to happen there, or if it's just going to be a House-only thing. We'll see, but nonetheless, news of the Space Force coming our way very soon. But nonetheless, this article coming out of the Popular Mechanics a few days ago, Pentagon is declassifying a lot of info about what's in orbit. So regardless of what happens to the Space Force, I would imagine that there are white hat elements in the military that are pushing for disclosure of what's actually happening with space and with space programs. So what's occurring first is the Pentagon is declassifying a little bit of lighter information about what's in orbit, what's going on with sciences and technologies, disclosure light, diet woke, right? But if you are familiar with the deeper knowledge of these secret space programs, you would understand that it's not just about what's in orbit, because in fact, many of these craft, they don't need to orbit anything. Many of these secret spacecraft, they can move around in space at will through the use of electrogravitic technologies, anti-gravity, for lack of a better term. There's free energy technologies we desperately want and need released into the public domain. So it's a step-by-step process. Disclosure of stuff this deep, this paradigm altering, it is a step-by-step process. So it's very good news. Pentagon is working to declassify a lot of this stuff. I'm hopeful that the Space Force will get implemented as a separate agency and start working for the disclosure of all of the technologies that will help change our world and make it a much better place. And speaking of disclosures of space information, there is a battle going on, a battle for disclosure, at least in regards to the UFO, ET, secret space program phenomenon. There is a covert behind-the-scenes battle for disclosure. We have white hat elements in the DoD, in the military, in the intelligence agencies even, that are pushing more for a full disclosure. And there's elements within the same agencies, within the DoD and the rogue intelligence agencies per se, that are pushing more so for a limited hangout, what I call a half-assed disclosure, really. And this is one group that is doing that, and that is the To the Stars Academy initiative with Lou Elizondo, all of them there, and this guy. This is one of those limited hangout disclosure programs that's in play. The rogue intelligence agencies, the CIA, and many of the bad actors behind the scenes, they have their controlled opposition plants all throughout the ufology community, and they are working to disclose just a little bit of the truth. But of course, it's just a little bit. They're trying to brush a lot of other crimes under the rug and not act like that anti-gravity, electrogravitic technology has been in these programs for decades and decades, and trillions of dollars have been funneled into these programs. But anyway, back onto the topic of this To the Stars Academy half-assed disclosure here. New report coming out saying that more details will surface in 2019 about this one program, this ATIP program, or OSAP program, if you want to call it that as well. Multiple names it goes under. More details will surface in 2019 about that. Lou Elizondo here is even claiming that they're trying to get a program underway now. They're trying to lobby the Department of Defense, the government, to initiate a current program. But nonetheless, you see all the individuals and organizations that have their hand in this particular limited hangout. You got John Podesta, you got Harry Reid, you got Bigelow Aerospace, you got Tom DeLonge, who's got, Freemason symbols all over his guitars and stuff like that. You've got these intelligence agents right here, and you listen to all of the things they say. I mean, it's such a fraction of the truth that it's really not even worth studying, honestly, because, well, it is worth studying to know what they're saying and what they're trying to tell you and claim to you, but there's so much more information that they're not saying, and that's in fact more important than oftentimes what they are here. So yeah, I mean, this is just, if you're well read on the subject of UFOs, secret space programs, this is just a joke, and I'm really curious as to what they'll try and bring us in 2019. But with Q, with so many other elements in play working for a full disclosure, I'm not even concerned about the limited hangout partial disclosure psyop that they're trying to bring us. So, as long as we have folks like those behind Q, folks like those white hats, those patriots in the military, in the intelligence community, and we have these citizen journalists like myself and others out there reporting on this stuff, that is all we need to combat, to not let their partial disclosure take place. So that's all I have for you guys in this one. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll be back very soon. Thank you.